What's up guys, and welcome back to another episode of the RTG career mode. This is episode number 4, and we're starting to do some stuff on the back of our win over Granada away at the Estadio Nuevo Los Carmenes in a battle of the two Andalusian sides here, as we went 3 points clear at the top of the table. 6 wins on the trot for Malaga, 6 wins in 7 on the back of the opening day draw against Deportivo Alaves, and now 3 points clear at the top of the table. But as I said at the back of the last episode, I'm taking nothing for granted. There is a long way to go, and there are 42 games in the Segunda Division. We've only played 7. Long way to go. Let's keep it calm. But heading into today's episode here, I did some more youth scouting. As you can see, picked up another good player for our academy here, Martim Gomez, Portuguese winger, looks very decent indeed. Also picked up a Moroccan winger, Ibrahim, who looks good as well. Xavi Bravo still looks pretty decent as well, and a couple more players too. Simon Carmona, 55 rated centre half though. At the moment, looks like he has the best potential in the team. It is one thing though that I hope that, FIFA and EA look to change as the years go by. I feel as though, and look, this is going to be quite a controversial opinion here, I'm sure, but I feel as though if you have players that are so lowly rated to get picked up to your academy, there needs to be a moment where their growth doesn't need to be always +1, +1, +1, +1, +1. I feel as though in FIFA career mode, players should be able to have upgrades. I don't really see why that isn't a possibility. And if not in the professional ranks, if not in the teams, your first teams, your professional teams, then at least in the youth academy. Because to me, like, if a player comes out 55 rated, even in this Segunda Division team, even with this Malaga team that isn't very, highly rated with, lowly rated players, chances are he's still going to really struggle to break into the team at any point, let alone in the first couple of years of his pro football career. And as we know, the more you play your players, the more likely they are to grow quicker if they're in good form, again, exposure to first team football. So to me, I do feel as though players should be able to have a growth spurt in the academy. So for someone like Carmona, I've always been a big advocate that youth teams should be in the game, in the sense that you don't just have a youth academy, but they play fixtures against other academies, and if they have good form, then they can have growth spurts. Like maybe 1 month they jump up 3 ratings, for example, as opposed to only going up by 1, +1, +1, +1 over the course of their career. To me, I mean, we see it in FIFA every single year. Sometimes, new FIFA comes out and you'll see, oh my god, player X has gone up 5 ratings. I don't know why that can't happen in FIFA career mode. To me, if it can happen in the other game modes, and if it can happen with each update in FIFA, I don't see why it can't happen within a career mode as well. To me, I think that will make a lot more sense than only having players being able to go up by 1 individual rating time after time again. Anyway, for the first game of today's episode, we had our first loss. Yes, heading into the month of October, we had our first loss with Malaga, coming at the Estadio La Rosaleda there, taking on a side from the Canary Islands, Tenerife, lost by a goal to 0 there. So away from home for the following game, Real Zaragoza, another great team for an RTG career mode here. Fun fact about Zaragoza, they apparently, now I don't know if this is true and if it's been verified, but apparently their home stadium has the largest depth goal nets in professional football. Now, I don't know whether that is verified and factually correct, but apparently that's a claim they claim to make. Apparently that is true. They have the largest depth goal nets in professional football. But taking on Zaragoza, this was away from home. It's not in the game, unfortunately. Would have been wild if it was. But taking on away from home here, great, fabulous Spanish city, Zaragoza. I'm desperate to visit one day. Taking them on. This was a really, really topsy-turvy game. We just had our first loss, and I talk about this quite often. Like, when you do lose a game, you want to respond instantly. If you want to do anything noteworthy in a season, be it chase promotion or try and win the title, then you need to respond instantly. You can't have back-to-back games where you fail to win or even just lose. So heading into this game here, had to respond. It was a really topsy-turvy game. Zaragoza did really well to battle back from 2-0 down to really make a game of this, but in the end, Loren Zuniga, with his first hat-trick in his professional career, pops up with a dagger late on as we bounce back there and win by 4 goals to 2. I must say, even though Ruben Castro at 41 years old is the veteran in his team and the highest rated striker, I'm really liking Loren Zuniga. I think this year he's going for that golden boot in the Segunda Division. So we got us the hat-trick there, our first hat-trick of the save, as we won by 4-2, and then 56 minutes into our following game here, taking on the B team of Villarreal from La Liga, taking on their B side here at the La Rosaleda. Well, doesn't matter how you get the goal so long as you do. Yep, nothing pretty about this goal, but Loren Zuniga scores a bizarre goal to extend his goal tally. I had to watch this back on the replay and see how it went in. In the end, he just poked a header through the legs of the defender and it just trickled over the line. He's claiming it though. He says he meant to do that and not try and just control the ball. And his 8th goal in 8 games makes it 1-0. As we take the lead right before the hour mark. Zuniga with another. Right now, top scorer in this Malaga team and going for the golden boot in the Segunda Division. I like Ruben Castro, don't get me wrong, at 41 years old, but we got to think of the future, man. And whilst Castro would come off the bench to set up our second goal of the game, right from kickoff, Villarreal B, giving the ball away, and the subs link up for our second goal. Apia, his first goal on loan here from Almeria, makes it 2-0. Zuniga is the future of our striker role, so I'm going to continue to prioritise him up top. Even so, we got ourselves back-to-back victories here and bounced back here at the La Rosaleda with a 2-0 victory against Villarreal B. I must say, you know, I've been asked this question a few times, like, what do you think about B teams playing in the professional leagues and in the lower divisions? Now, obviously, for those that are unaware, in Spanish football, B teams can play in the Spanish Football League, but they can't get promoted or play in the same division as their parent team, if that makes sense. So Villarreal B could never be promoted to La Liga and play in the same league with, you know, Villarreal's first team. And even if, hypothetically, if Villarreal were to be relegated and Villarreal B was still in the Segunda Division, they would then drop down a division because they can't play in the same league, which makes total sense, of course, because it means that every time Villarreal would face their B team, well, they'd thrash them 50-0 or whatever to improve their goal difference and, of course, get an easy 3 points or 6 points for a season in the 2 games they face against them. Now, I see the pros and cons of both of those, arguments. I see why B teams in a football league could be a benefit, because the chances are they're going to have a pretty high standard of player in the academy, and playing against pro teams is only going to be good for their development, because it's going to be filled with mostly younger players, so they're playing against, older players, and obviously that helps them become more physical. And it, of course, becomes a lot more competitive as well, as opposed to just playing academy football. Sometimes, as we know, academy games can be a little bit imbalanced due to the quality of the 2 parent clubs, if you will, or the 2 clubs they're associated with. But I do think it is kind of unfair for the Football League teams themselves, personally speaking. And so to me, I don't really agree with it. Now, in English football, we don't do that. We do have the Papa John's Trophy, and in that competition, B teams of Premier League teams can play and opt to play in that competition. I don't agree with that either. Like, to me, I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right to have 2 teams associated with 1 club playing in the same football pyramid. And this is simply because, obviously, the football pyramid in England is the strongest worldwide. It is one of the things that English football kind of gets right, if you will, because we get an awful lot of it wrong. Believe me, I am the first to admit that. But if you look at what we saw last weekend between the game Wrexham and Notts County, the top 2 teams in the National League, and of course you saw the media attention that fixture brought, mainly of course I accept due to the investment of Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds, the Hollywood stars, of course buying into Wrexham Football Club. But if you look at the passion of those 2 teams there, that is the 5th tier of the English pyramid. They are both fighting for a Football League spot, which, as we know, is so important, and even more important nowadays. It wouldn't be fair to me if one of those spots, for example, was to be taken up by a Manchester United or a Chelsea or a Liverpool under-21s team, for example, and not just one spot but several, because I feel as though the quality and the resources that those teams have, the real financial powerhouses of the Premier League, again, your Manchester Cities, your Chelseas, for example, I mean, let's be honest here, their B teams could easily compete in the Championship with the amount of depth and quality that these teams possess. It kind of takes away from the magic of knowing that, in the Championship, for example, several of those teams could potentially be B teams of the Premier League, and it means that it becomes harder for the National League teams to, become a Football League side when they're not just competing with other similar quality teams, but also B teams of Premier League powerhouses as well. I see why it's good for the development of young players, and believe me, there is nothing better than seeing young players develop quicker nowadays. But to preserve the strength of the football pyramid, to maintain the fairness to try and at least keep the fairness from becoming too unfair and too imbalanced between, teams outside of the Premier League, Football League sides, and then of course National League and National League North and South teams, and below as well. I think it's a really dangerous move to implement that sort of thing, knowing that again these Premier League B teams could take up so many spots in the Football League. And in a football pyramid that is so strong and yet still quite imbalanced as well, it then becomes even harder for teams to break into the Football League, maintain their place in the Football League, and also progress and try and close the gap between quality of their teams and the top teams in English football as well. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below. It is one of those debatable topics where there's not really a right or wrong answer. It just depends on your stance. Would you prefer to see more development for younger players and B teams have a chance to play against players that are older, under 21 teams playing against, seasoned pros, if you will, in the Football League for more stronger and physical games? Or do you think it should be kept as it is to try and stop the imbalance and the gap between quality of top teams and lower league sides and non-league sides from widening even further? Let me know in the comment section down below. Even so, as we end the episode there on the back of 3 straight draws with Malaga against Real Oviedo, Cartagena, and also Leganes away from home as well. The honeymoon period definitely over. We might have won 6 on the trot. Just 2 wins in our last 6 in the month of October means we drop into 2nd place in the table. 13 games. Yes, we are still in a promotion spot for now, but as Tenerife leapfrog us and now lead the way in the second division, there is still a long way to go, and proof that in this division you've got to be consistent if you want to get promoted. But that will end today's episode of the RTG Career Mode, guys. Big thank you for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. If you have, then please drop a like. Much love to you all. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you for the next episode of the RTG Career Mode very soon.